Marcus Williams, our last speaker of the night.
If I were to ask you, out of 100 youth who would age out of the foster care system, how many would ever attend college? Now, the optimist in us would probably say 60%, 50%, somewhere within that range. But sadly, it is much lower. So, if I were to pose the same question, yet elicit a different response, what might you say next? Now, sticking with the theme of optimism, most of us would still say 30%, 25%, and the few realists may say 15%. And still, it is significantly much lower. Now, I will let you know that of the 100 youth who will age out of the foster care system, only 6% of them will ever attend college. And an even more astounding fact, only 3% will ever walk the stage on graduation day. This is what 3% looks like. Now, although I'm a part of the 3%, I am not here to discuss my successes. In fact, I'm here to do the exact opposite. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Marcus Denzel Williams. And if you were to check my resume or my LinkedIn profile, it would say something like St. Norbert College, class of 21, published author, and government-appointed official by the governor himself. But if you were to check my life profile, you know the things that we carry around with us in our day-to-day, the baggage that often goes unseen, it would say things like survivor of both physical and sexual abuse. It would say former incarcerated youth. And if you scrolled all the way to the bottom at the fine print, it would say former youth in the foster care system. See, at the age 2, my mother had already gone to prison, and my father, well, he never existed. From that point until about 14, I was in a home where I was sexually abused and physically abused, amongst other things. And from 14 to 16, I bounced around between foster homes and group homes and more foster homes, destroying everything in my path like the angry youth that I was. So there's no surprise that when I tell you at 17, the inevitable happened, and I found myself behind bars of a youth prison. And even more ironically, I graduated high school behind those same bars. So after 367 days, and on my 18th birthday, I was released. Not only was I severely overweight, I was very poor with no sense of direction. I couldn't tell you what I was doing or where I was going. And then I found St. Norbert College. Now, I would love to stand in front of you and tell you that I came to St. Norbert College to be a scholar or an academic or possibly even the next Einstein. But if I told you that, I would be lying. See, I came to St. Norbert College to play football. Oftentimes, the joke in the locker room was, I came to school to play football, not play school. Yet I stand here 5 years later, which means something obviously had to go right. Right? In fact, I would actually argue that I needed everything to go wrong in order to stand in front of you today. See, my freshman year, I didn't go to class. I didn't care about class. So there's no surprise that when I tell you my grades slipped, and so did my attitude. But sophomore year came around, and I thought this would be my year. Not only as an academic, but as a football player as well. And as we all know, life often has different plans. See, the first half of my sophomore year, I blew out my Achilles. I distanced myself from my friends, teammates, and peers. But adversity was something that I was accustomed to, so I thought I would bounce back. And then in the second half of my sophomore year, my best friend and older sister died of a sudden brain aneurysm. See, ladies and gentlemen, every time that I had thought I had hit rock bottom, life showed me just how deep rock bottom goes. And as for class, I didn't care about class. Every day I wanted to drop out, but I couldn't. No, not that I physically couldn't do it, but I literally could not do it. Because what the select few people who knew me knew was that school was my home. School was where my meals came from. See, when my cohorts and colleagues would go home for vacations, holidays, and breaks, I stayed here at school. Now, over the years, I've told this story, and there's one question that typically remains amongst everything else. Why not quit? Why keep going? See, people would tell me, Marcus, you could throw in the towel right now and nobody would hold it against you because you made it farther than most. You made it to the 6%. And oftentimes I like to answer those individuals with a simple story that I learned about my time at St. Norbert. While I was here, I got to mentor other foster care youth and kids who looked like me and came from where I come from. We would oftentimes play sports, video games, talk about gossip, you name it, we did it. And for the sake of the story, I'll name this kid James. I'm sitting down with him one day, and James looks at me and he says, you know, Marcus, one day I'm going to grow up and be just like you. And at 21 and going through life, I chuckled to myself and I said, yeah, why is that? And without a moment's hesitation, James looked right back at me and he said, because you made it. Now, I began to think of every excuse and every reason on why I had not yet made it to give to James. And again, with that same moment, with no hesitation, James looks at me in the midst of my excuses and he says, I don't care. See, oftentimes, ladies and gentlemen, we are told that the I don't care mentality is a step away from failure. However, I would actually argue to you today that the I don't care mentality is a step in the right direction. A step towards success. See, because my entire life I had heard that overcoming my situation was impossible, that I would be another number in some system somewhere. But I did not care to limit myself due to other people's standards or other people's expectations. See, I was told that going to St. Norbert College, playing football, and working multiple jobs was also impossible. But I did not care to listen to those individuals. I cared to listen to myself. See, the moment that we stop setting our goals based off of other people's standards is not only the time that true success is achieved, but also true perseverance. When I've told this story over the years, you know, people have often come up to me afterwards and said, you know, Marcus, I don't understand how you did it every day. Because I wouldn't have the energy. Yesterday I did this, or yesterday I did that, and we want a pat on the back. And over the years, it's helped me develop my simple mantra that I live by every single day of my life. Yesterday is gone. We can't change that. But the real question, ladies and gentlemen, is what are you going to do today that makes your tomorrow better? Thank you. So as we all know, the theme of tonight has been to own your impact. And I wanted to take a moment to dedicate my talk to someone who exemplified what this meant every single day. My friend Eric Blumert. Eric was not only a member of our St. Norbert family, but he was a father figure to many fatherless boys, a helping hand in a time of need, and also a beacon of hope. And above all, he was my friend. A few weeks ago, Eric died unexpectedly of a heart attack at the young age of 49, and our entire community is grieving. As I worked on my talk and reflected on what it truly meant to own your impact, something that Eric once said popped into my mind, and I think it's something that is a perfect way to end our event tonight. And it goes like this. Today is a day that I have a responsibility and an opportunity to serve, and to eternally pursue being kinder and more generous. Eric embodied this ideology in everything that he did. So what if we all did as well? Rest easy in your kindness and peace, Eric. Thank you.